All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Good? All right. Um, Joel's going to have the questions rolling in the background, and we're going to lob some softballs to the panel at first, and we'll get going. So if you have good questions or bad ones, shoot them up here. Question number one is they can introduce themselves as they go. Question number one is what's your name, and how long have you been a parent? And Marcy, you get to throw in the how long have you been a grandparent as well, please.
Chad Cosens. I've been a parent for 21 years.
Jayci Cosens, also 21 years.
I'm glad that number matched.
My name is Marcy. I've been a parent for 45 years, and for 11 years I've been a grandma. It's the best thing ever.
Paul Martin, I've been a parent for 27 years.
Just a side note too, Jayci is a middle school teacher, so if she gets a sneak peek at a lot of different kids in a lot of different situations, and if you don't know Paul, he's known all our kids for far too long. So there's some extra experience there that they'll draw from, I'm sure. Second question, to get started, what's something you wish you knew before you started parenting?
Sure. So about 6 years ago, I ran across some information from Andy Stanley from a parenting book that he wrote that I thought, man, that would have been really nice to have in my arsenal as a dad, as Kara and I raised our kids. But it's the 4 stages of parenting, and it's something that if you get it right, it works well. If you get them out of order, then it messes up the process. And so it's basically that when your child is from 0 to 5 years old, you are the discipliner. You are teaching them discipline, and that's going to be your main role. Then you're training them from the ages 5 through 12, so you're a trainer. Then you're more like a coach when they're 12 to 18 years, give or take. And then finally, you get to be friends with your kids once they're out of the house. And man, just anytime that rotation gets messed up, when we try to be a friend to our kids too early, it causes problems. And so that was just something that I thought of when I heard this question.
Well, I don't think this contradicts what you said exactly, but I wish that someone had said, you don't have to be a super strict disciplinarian. When my boys made bad choices, which they absolutely did, I wish I had stopped for a minute and thought, wait a minute, that choice was made with a 3-year-old brain or an 8-year-old brain or 17-year-old brain. And so I wish I had given them more second chances and third chances instead of being quite as strict as I was. You know, Jesus has given me so much grace. And I wish I had modeled that better for my kids.
I wish I would have heard this morning's sermon. No, just kidding. That too. But I wish somebody would have told me that it's all hard. Every stage is hard. I think when our boys were born, I thought, oh, if we can just get past the newborn stage, or potty training, or grade school, or middle school, or high school. But it's all hard. And it's all great, and it's all terrible, all at the same time. There's good and bad in every stage. And then they go on to the next stage. And just when you think you have it figured out with one kid, Cal Cousins comes along and changes everything.
Man, Aaron sent me this question about 4 days ago, and I haven't thought of a very good answer. I do remember one time, I don't know if we were at a open gym, if it was an upwards deal, I don't know what it was, but we were in the gym over here, and Dusty and I were talking, and we were talking about kids and just stuff about kids. And, you know, at that point in time, I thought every boy should have a haircut like me. Matt Park has nicknamed it the Chad. And so we were talking, and I think I mentioned something about I can't imagine my boy having hair like that. And he's like, oh, I used to think that way too. But he said, an older gentleman several years ago told me, don't worry about the small stuff. It'll pass, and hair will grow back. The hair will grow back to its normal color. And I was pretty good until about Cal's junior year. And I happened to glance at his junior year football picture today before church, and I looked at it, and it reminded me he had showed up one day saying something about a mullet haircut. And I think I said, if you show up with a mullet haircut, every day you step in the house, I want to punch you in the face. He didn't step in the house with a mullet haircut, but he was close. He tried it. You tried it.
If I would look back, I would try to tell myself it's going to take a large amount of patience. Being a mom of 3 boys, some days are harder than others, and I dig deep. And then when I think my pockets are empty, I pray for more because I need it every day, all day, and then, yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, you want to answer?
I would say something to the effect of like, I think there's a lot of, especially fellas, the younger fellas that are like put off or are scared to be a father, like it's going to ruin your life or get in the way of your other things. I'd never changed a diaper until my kids showed up. And then when the twins were done, I could get both diapers done in less than 15 seconds if people cooperated the way I needed them to. So I just encourage you, it's worth giving up some of the other stuff, and you'll be ready when you need to be. So, yeah, can you start throwing up some questions similar to last week? We'll try to grab a few that spark an interest, and then
The one right before this said words to describe parenting.
words to describe parenting. Well, I hesitate to be too. My kids are sitting in the back. Hostage negotiators too, but sometimes breakfast feels like that.
I think parenting is hard, but rewarding. Your kids could be yelling and screaming at you and saying hateful things, and then within the day, Mom, can I cuddle with you? I get that a lot, but it's rewarding and worth it.
Words to describe parenting.
Words to describe parenting.
6 words or less.
Rewarding, frustrating, maddening, exciting, and when we brought Dryden home, set him down in front of the fireplace in the car seat, and I was scared to death.
I always think of that moment because we set him down and we looked at each other like, what do we do? I don't know. They sent us home with this little baby and we don't have a clue what we're doing. And I would still say, like, I don't think any of us know what we're doing. We're just trying to figure it out together in community. And like I said, you figure it out with one kid and then the next kid comes along and you have to figure out something different because they're Cal cousins.
I feel like you guys are being kind of hard on Cal. I'll take how do you handle adult children turning away from God. I wouldn't say that happened to me exactly, but they are probably not going to go the way you think they're going to go. Maybe I didn't get the arrow aimed exactly straight, or maybe my plan was not exactly what God had in mind. But I think you pray your heart out. That's it. And don't boss them around. even when they're adults, especially when they're adults maybe, don't tell them how to run their lives. Just be an example.
I saw somebody threw up, who's your favorite kid? Let's see. Drew's in the room. I don't see any of the other 5, so I'm going to say Drew today. You know? No, I thought about this. The how many kids did or do you have? I thought that might be helpful to people. We have 5. Drew's the oldest. He's 27. Emma's the youngest, 17. And then Maya, Noah, and Luke are in between. So we had 3 boys, natural birth, and after that, the doctor said, Kara, you can't get pregnant anymore. So we adopted, which was good because that was part of the I do's, the vows that I had to take at our wedding. She what? I got to take. Yes, I got to take. No, it was. Hey, Kara's family adopted her sister when Kara was 9. And so from that point on, it was a must that whoever Kara married got to say the I do that, yes, we'll adopt as well. So we adopted Emma and Maya both from Korea at separate adoptions. They're not blood related, but definitely sisters. So.
Okay, I'm taking one more question before I give us back. How have you avoided venting about your spouse in front of your kids? It is hard. Some of you know that I'm divorced, and so it's super hard, but it is so worth it. So just discipline yourself. Make yourself never, ever say anything bad about your spouse or your ex-spouse in front of your kids. Just don't do it. They should have a relationship that is the very best with both parents.
We have 2 sons together. Well, that's the only children we have together. Our oldest son is named Dryden. He's 21, and Cal is 18. They're both in college now, so that's the same answer. Well, you can pick.
Is that the favorite son? Let's see. Proudest moments as parents. Let's go there. One day, Cal came home and said, Mom, I think we should bring back bullying in schools. That was a good one. No, I think they're different for both of them. For Dryden, seeing the effect of being a college athlete is hard, and he's been consistent every week, and it shows. There's 15 to 20 guys last year. Some of those guys showed up last week to church on the baseball team. That makes me proud. And the effects both of them have had on their friends, it shows me that, they care. They care about setting a good example. They care about being good leaders. And the return of that is they can see the effects on their friends. And just like Joel said today, these kids need Jesus. Kids want Jesus. When kids see Jesus in their friends, they want to be a part of that. And so I'm proud of that for both of them.
I saw something up there about a struggle. I'm not exactly sure where it's at now, but during the summer, I'm a classroom teacher, teach 3rd grade, and so I'm off during the summers, and he works. And at first, when somebody asked me, "Are you ready for summer? What are you going to do?" And I'm like, "I'm a full-time mom. I'm not a teacher during those months." And I would have to say those sometimes are the most challenging because I have them from sunup to sundown. And my children, I have a couple that are super, super challenging. Love them dearly, and like I think Chad said, they're all different. All three of mine are drastically different personalities. But a struggle for me is not to blow my top. I have to stay patient because when I escalate things, it only makes a couple of them worse. So that is hard for me. And the other part is when he comes home, bless his heart, I know that he has just spent 8 hours in front of an office taking care of problems himself. But early, and I don't know how long it's been, but I would just say they're yours. And when I was at home when the twins were infants, I would just hand them off and be like, I need time for me, and you have to be a parent. Because in my mind, I felt like I had just parented by myself. And I don't know how you single parents do it, bless your heart. But I couldn't do it anymore. And there was lots of times that I would just hand them off and be like, I'm done, I can't. And now the kids are older, I put myself in timeout. And so they are not allowed to talk to me when I put myself in timeout. And that kind of gives me a few minutes of myself. I got to put myself together before I don't kill my children. And I try not to, when he walks in the door, I try not to pass them off anymore. But that's a challenge for me, a struggle for me, because it is not always easy.
I'll piggyback on Marcy's, how do you keep from or avoid venting on your spouse? I don't all the time. And when I don't, I need to say sorry. Like, kids need to see how conflict is resolved between parents, in my opinion. And if you avoid all conflict in front of them, I mean, there's so many things you walk into, not to go back to marriage, you just don't have a clue. And if you don't model that to some degree, it's okay to get frustrated at your spouse for a good or a bad reason, but they also need to see you resolve it. Hey, I blew up on you, and you didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. And then move on. But I don't think you do avoid it. If the goal is to never have that happen, good luck.
Just to kind of piggyback on that, one of the things that I think is, I remembered seeing this being modeled in my parents when I was being raised. Dad would, too many times, would say that he married up on the food chain. And that was just his way of saying, we couldn't have done what we did without your mom being as awesome as she was. And that was a big deal in my life to recognize, not only venting against, but the opposite of that is raising them up in your kids' eyes to know that hey, I love that person that I'm doing this parenting gig with, and you need to know that. And I didn't do as good of a job as my dad did. The other thing that would go along with that is just when it's a tag team and here they're yours, or I'm upset with you. Consistency between the two parents is huge because they know which one to go to get, mom told me no, I'm going to go talk to dad right now. And that has reared its head more so for us in the last probably 4 years than it did earlier. Is just the need to be consistent on the same page with each other as we try to raise these kids.
How about the one that the cursor's actually pointing at? How have you discouraged friendships with kids who seem like they will teach your children bad behavior? That is tricky, really tricky. And my kids did choose some friends like that. And
Sorry, Marcy.
yeah, because I wasn't going to name names, but the way I tried to handle it was we don't all have, explaining to my kids, we don't all have the advantage of a mom and dad that love Jesus. And because of that, you can be Jesus to that friend. So I tried not to, judge a child or discourage my child from being a friend with someone. But I also think there's a balance there that you have to just say, sometimes that friend makes really bad choices, and maybe you're the person that can help them make better ones.
Just to tag on that a little bit, Amber and I try to have kids that we see as a rougher influence to our house, and where we send our kids, we'll manipulate the game a little more to make sure that they're in a place that's more well, our kids, yeah, more similar thought, aim at the same values and that sort of thing.
I saw one up there about how do you recharge? If you don't get time to yourself, how do you recharge? I called JC the sleep Nazi when the boys were young, real young, because she had a schedule for the boys that were like 6:30. It was bedtime every night. Drop what you're doing. We're leaving. Whatever we're doing, we're going home, and the boys are going to bed. That was somewhat difficult because sometimes we were at a friend's house or just doing something, and it limited what we could do in the afternoon at times. But the boys learned it after Cal's colic was over with, and for a lot of evenings, most of the evenings, we had the evenings to ourselves, and so it was easy to recharge because the boys were asleep and they slept all night. So it was easy to recharge. So for those of you who have young kids or getting ready to have a kid or baby, I shouldn't say kid. I was like, yeah, kid. The healthy sleep habits for healthy babies. I don't remember very many books, but that was one of them. That's one of them because something like that. It was I can't imagine having our boys up till 10 or 11 at night when they were young. So
I'll piggyback off that. They shared that book with us. I didn't read it all. But I had talked to JC, and we did the same thing, and it was hard because sometimes we'd be like, well, we need to put our kid to bed, we're leaving. Oh, but it's only, no. This is, having a routine. And even now, our kids know that we start bedtime routines at 7:30, between 7:30 and 8, and they're off a device and ready to go to bed between 8:15 and 8:30, and it's every night. We have 2 third graders and a middle schooler, and that's still the same process. We've not started at 7, we've moved it back, but they thrive on routine. If their routine is messed up, it causes them chaos. They don't always understand it, but you can see it through extra behaviors and arguing. So, yes, I didn't read the book, but I got the same knowledge. And, yes, routine.
Something that was really important for me personally as a mom, like once the boys were born and trying to raise them, was to find other parents who can help you. Not just parents that are going through that stage with you, but parents that are older that have been through that. I was a part of MOPS. I think it's called Mommy Meetups now. But Marcy was a mentor, and it was so helpful to hear the experience from the other side. Like, you will get through the toddler ages. You will get through having 2 in middle school. So just surrounding yourself with other faithful parents that you can ask advice from, look to for examples, and then as your kids get older, to try to be that for other people. I'm always glad to give advice or glad to answer questions. I don't have all the answers. Even though I teach 100 middle schoolers a day, I still don't know how middle schoolers work. They are just as confusing to me as they are to you as parents, but surround yourself with people that you respect that have been through it, because we're all trying to figure it out together.
I think that's one of the keys. There's some questions up here about, kids walking away from the faith, or how do you handle discipline, or yeah, nobody has it all figured out, that's for sure. I just wanted to piggyback on that, and it's a very humbling experience to raise kids and watch God work in spite of me, and just thankful for the avenue of prayer and being able to just, especially as they are older, they're going off to college, and you don't have any control, and I'm probably too much of a control freak, and it was just a very important lesson for me to learn when Drew left the house. I could not control what his spiritual walk was going to be like, but I could pray about it, and that was the most important thing I did. And I got to watch. You're talking about proudest moments. Maddie and Drew are sitting over here. I failed to mention that my oldest two boys are married. Maddie is sitting here with Drew, and then Gabri is in the nursery, and she's married to Luke. And one of my proudest moments for these two was watching them be a part of the leadership team that started some Christian sorority and fraternity at Pittsburgh State, and just watching their faith develop even more so as they were a part of that. That wasn't on my radar, but praise God for answering prayers, and that it's so just because we're sitting up here on stage, we don't have it figured out. We're still in the process. Don't hesitate to ask so we can learn together, because it takes a village for sure.
One says, how do you as a parent release your stress, but also the a little bit of time for yourself. I did not have that book, and so another way, in case your kids don't go to bed at 7, I actually remember that when you were in MOPS, and I thought, she puts her kids to bed at 7 o'clock. But anyway, it sounds like it worked really well. If you don't have that option, or you didn't start that, I chose to get up super early every morning, and just have, it might just be 5 or 10 minutes, or sometimes it was longer, but just have some time to read the scripture and to spend in prayer, which I know is a textbook answer, and people roll their eyes at, but it does relieve your stress, and it does make a big difference.
I'll tag with Marcy on that. Releasing stress. I skip lunch and exercise, which is probably not a wise nutritional thing to do, but I'm not a reader. I have a really hard time sitting still. So I'll put something in my ear, like a sermon or a podcast that I'm intrigued about, or something that I should listen to make myself better. It is hard to be stressed when you're wiped out tired. So if you can kind of hack that process and make yourself wiped out tired quick, then it's hard to just sit and mope and be mad. You're just tired. I don't know if this is what you're supposed to say on a stage at church, but a cold glass of the beverage of your choice, take that how you want to, is also an okay way to release stress responsibly on occasion.
I would say let your wife have one too. Paul, there's one up there for you.
The question, has parenting your bio kids been different than your adopted kids? That was something early on that we made a concerted effort to make sure that all of our kids felt like our kids, that there wasn't a ton of difference. As the girls got older, they started having questions about, why was my birth mom not wanting to keep me? Some of those kinds of things. And, questions that we spent so much time when they were young, had kind of forgot that there might be that once they got to be teenagers and just questioning those kinds of things. So it wasn't a lot different until they got to high school and they started asking those questions. The other thing I would piggyback on there is we try really hard to, and I failed to, when I introduced the fact that I had 5 kids. We have 7, and we try really hard with our daughters-in-law to make sure they know that they're our daughters. And so all of that, whether it's bio kids or adopted kids or in-laws once they get married, you just have to do it. Just treat them like they're your own kids in whatever way you can, and it has paid off big time.
So I have learned about the in-law thing also, and a lot of it I actually learned from Jayci and her friends and other moms that I mentored through the years. Is about treating your daughter-in-law as a daughter, but not exactly, because nobody can replace her mom. And so it's a fine line that you walk, and that's not really what we were here to talk about. But if you have children who are married, it's certainly something to pray about, exactly how you treat them. Yeah. Do you have something, Jayci?
How did you handle disciplining your kids?
Physical intimidation.
There was some of that. Man, that's tough, and it obviously changes as they get older. I would say I wish I would have done a better job earlier, recognizing what triggered me. I still struggle with it. Because sometimes I lose my patience pretty quickly. So I think the best thing you could do is figure out what triggers you when it comes to disciplining your kids, and try to recognize it in that moment and step away for a minute, and then revisit that situation. I didn't do a very good job of that. Still don't. It's weird. It's some of the things that irritate me the most are some of the dumbest things, and then they'll do something really like, okay, this could be a big deal, and it's almost like I'm more calm about it. But the things that trigger me the most is like, disrespecting their mom or disrespecting one another, or disrespecting me, or not showing love to their mom. That stuff triggers me quickly, and I did not do a good job, and haven't done a good job of just backing away from those situations and taking a moment to gather my composure, and then revisiting that situation. So I would encourage you as a man, as a dad, like if you recognize those moments and then back away, gather your composure, and then revisit the situation.
Joel is putting blue on how do you teach your kids good habits. I'll echo what he said from pulpit, from the iPad, whatever Joel preaches from. If you want your kids to have a habit, make a habit yourself and invite them along with you. I don't want to say it's that simple, but that's your best chance to making it stick.
I was going to talk about the good cop, bad cop. I feel like you need to play both, not necessarily at the same time. I don't remember which one of you said it, but stay on the same page. I think it was Paul. When we're both a bad cop, we're on the same bad cop page. He may approach it differently than I do, and when he's frustrated, I try to say, hey, you go take 2 minutes, I will step in. But we teach and we're fighting the same battle together. There is not a good cop versus bad cop. We're on the same page, and that tends to help.
That doesn't mean there hasn't been times where it's like, walk to the bedroom and shut the door and go, hey, babe, I don't think you got that one right. Let's figure it out. Who's right, who's wrong, I don't care. But I was on your team, but I don't think you're right. And we figure it out calmly and with a low voice.
I haven't seen the question, but I'll raise the question. When did you give your kids smartphones?
Not yet.
Dryden and Cal both got their sophomore years in high school, and they had a flip phone before. In 7th grade, we got them flip phones. Smartphones, their sophomore year, and that was too early. I hate those things and love those things all at the same time. Because, man, you talk about losing control. You have no control what they're looking at, no control what's being sent to them, no control what they're sending. I hate them, and I love them at the same time. So don't feel pressured. I don't care what or how bad your kids want a phone in 7th grade or 8th grade or 4th grade. Like, don't fall into that pressure. It's going to cost you money, and it's going to cost you a lot of heartache because immediately once they get them, they're on them. And it's tough to break a habit, and we are too. We spend too much time on it. So stay away from smartphones. They're terrible.
Well, I will just say we also need to teach our children to be digitally responsible, and it's good to do that while they're in your home. We have a hard rule that we do not have phones during meals, whether that's at our kitchen table or somewhere in a restaurant. Dryden's 21, and we are saying to him still, he's like, put your phone away, we're eating. And he'll, I just got to send this text or whatever it is. But I'm not saying that to judge anyone. As a middle school teacher, I have seen just kind of some of the issues that come with kids that have phones with them all the time. So where did I see the quote? It's been this week that give your kids a phone when you're ready for their childhood to be over. And it's the sobering reality of kind of what I see as a middle school teacher, but also some choices we made as a parent. If your kids already have smartphones and they're little, please don't think that any of us are judging. Just know that opens up a whole new world that you can't control. So monitor, set parameters, and model for them what it looks like to use that responsibly.
Oh, I was just going to echo what Chad and Jayci have said. Our kids didn't get a flip phone or anything until they were freshmen in high school for that reason. And then the smartphone wasn't until they could pay for the phone, it's the device itself on the monthly payment with their job or whatever because of those reasons. And just so many things that you run into. I love how Joel and Ian before him, have set the standard that we don't have our phones when we go to CIY Move. And now we see the high school moving to, I believe the middle school already had, right, district-wide. And I love that that the world that's not necessarily following Jesus in their decision-making is also making some of these choices to take these devices out of the kids' hands for a time being so that they can focus on learning, they can focus on relationships where they actually have conversations with people. So anyway, I'm really glad you guys brought that up. It's a big deal.
If you want the intellectual, like the consensus of intellectual people that have studied these items. There's a gentleman named Jonathan Haidt. It's worth a listen to a podcast or reading his book called The Anxious Generation. His whole research for the last 5 years came to the conclusion that kids need 4 things. No phone until a minimum of 14, and a dumb phone is what he recommended. And these are the minimum ages. No social media till 16. No phone schools so that they can learn to communicate with each other and resolve conflict. And the fourth one is one that doesn't happen because of phones, but free play with limited parent interaction. So that when somebody breaks a rule, they can have a conversation, they can negotiate a result, and keep the game going. But when you take those things and throw them at kids early, he makes the case that there's a lot of the social problems that we encounter today are from a lack of social interaction and learning to play with each other, as far as little kids from age 2 to even 18 and 20 play a game without a phone in your hand. Team, it's 11:10, and you got anything else you want to add? Good to go?
I got last thought from me. I can't stress enough how important it is for your kids to have quality friendships. Dryden, I mean, we've brought both the boys here since they were young. Dryden's class was, there were a lot more kids who came with him, not only on Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights. Parker Allen was part of that, still part of that. Eli, there were a lot of kids, so it was easier for us with Dryden because a lot of his good friends were in church with him. Cal was a little different, but he still chose quality friendships. I don't know when it happens with girls, but I know with boys, and I saw this coming, and I remember back when I was younger, at some point in middle school, your boys are going to stop listening to you, and they're going to start listening to their friends. So if their friends are not quality people, more than likely, that's what your son's going to turn into. It's going to be a lot harder for you in your relationship with your son and making sure that he grows up with the qualities and character and everything you want him to grow up with if his friends stink. So encourage friendships with quality people, and if that means being a jerk, that's okay. So
Let's pray and wrap it up, guys. Thanks for showing up today. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to discuss hard topics. I know we didn't cover everything, and I don't think you ever will. Help us to lean into the hard stuff today so we don't have to deal with the harder stuff tomorrow. Help us to surround ourselves with people that aim us in the right direction. Help us when we don't have the wisdom to figure out the best solution, and just infuse us with your wisdom and help us find it wherever it's at to do the best we can. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.